The Crithian elders had already made their judgment. Kale would never hunt. He would never fight. The cub's twisted leg and stunted growth marked him as hail-torn, broken, unworthy of the warrior path that defined their species. Celera Ven had heard the whispers in the clan's stone halls. She'd seen the way Kale's own mother averted her eyes when the other cubs sparred in the training grounds, their obsidian claws striking practice dummies with savage precision. The Crithians were apex predators, 7 feet of corded muscle and razor-sharp instinct. Their society built on strength and the honor of the hunt. Humans had no place in that hierarchy. Celera was a salvager, one of dozens who'd been permitted to work in Crithian space after the Treaty of Eldorus. She fixed their ships, recycled their broken technology, and stayed invisible. That was the arrangement. But arrangements changed when a 7-year-old cub sat alone in the scrapyard, watching her work with eyes too old for his age. "Your leg doesn't bend right," Celera had said on that first day, setting down her plasma torch. Directness was the only language the Crithians respected. Kale had stiffened, his small claws digging into the dirt. "I know. Can you walk?" "Yes." "Can you think?" The cub's ears had flattened in confusion. "Yes." "Then you're not broken." Celera had returned to her work, cutting through a sheet of hull plating. "You're just built different." Different isn't useless. 3 months later, Kale still came to the scrap yard every dawn cycle. He brought questions, hundreds of them. How did human ships move without claw controls? Why did her tools have grips for weak fingers? How could something so small as a servo motor move something so large? Celera answered them all. And slowly, an idea crystallized. The Crithians built their battle armor for hunters. Massive exoskeletons that amplified their already formidable strength, designed for creatures who could tear through steel with their bare hands. But Kale would never wear such armor. His body couldn't support it, so Celera would build something else. She worked in secret, using materials the clan had discarded. Composite plating too thin for their warriors. Servo systems deemed too delicate. Power cells considered insufficient. What the Crithians saw as inadequate, Celera saw as adaptive. The armor took shape over 4 months. It wasn't designed to make Kale stronger. It was designed to make him mobile. Hydraulic supports compensated for his twisted leg, distributing his weight across a custom frame. Microservos in the joints amplified his movements without overwhelming his smaller frame. The plating was light, flexible, angled to deflect rather than absorb. It was human engineering, meant for efficiency, adaptation, and making the most of limited resources. When Celera finally fitted the armor onto Kale in the quiet of her workshop, the cub stood straighter than he ever had. He took a step, then another. The hydraulics hissed softly, moving with him rather than for him. "How does it feel?" Celera asked. Kale's golden eyes were wide. "I feel whole." "You were always whole," she corrected. "Now you're just equipped." The testing grounds incident happened 2 weeks later. Kale had appeared during the adolescent trials, wearing his armor. The other cubs had frozen, their instructors bristling with outrage. A hail-torn in warrior's gear was an insult to their traditions. Then the lead instructor had laughed, a barking, cruel sound. "Let the broken cub try. The dummies are set to adult resistance. Let him embarrass himself." Kale had walked to the practice ring, his movements smooth and confident within the armor's support. The first dummy lunged, its mechanical arms programmed with a warrior's speed. Kale slipped beneath the strike with a grace no Crithian his size could match. The armor's servos responded instantly, translating his intent into fluid motion. He couldn't overpower the dummy, so he didn't try. Instead, he moved like water, redirecting, evading, striking at weak points with the precision of someone who'd learned to see patterns in machinery. It wasn't Crithian fighting. It was something else entirely. When the dummy finally powered down, scored with hits across every vulnerable joint, the training ground was silent. Elder Vornak was the first to speak, his silver mane bristling. "This is unprecedented." "Who built this?" Kale stood tall. "Celera Ven, the human." The elders convened that night. Celera was summoned to the clan's great hall, where the Council of Claws presided over matters of honor and tradition. She expected exile, perhaps imprisonment for interfering with their culture. She didn't expect matriarch Syra to descend from her throne. The clan's leader was ancient by Crithian standards, her fur marked with the scars of 100 hunts. She circled Celera slowly, her amber eyes measuring. You taught the broken cub to fight, Cyrus said. I taught him to move, Celera corrected. He taught himself to fight. You gave him worth. He always had worth. I gave him a chance to show it. Cyrus' tail lashed once, a sign of deep consideration. Then she did something Celera had never seen a Crithian do. She lowered her head, briefly, in a gesture of respect. Our traditions teach that strength is absolute, the matriarch said. But you have shown us that strength can be adapted, built, crafted. She turned to face the assembled clan. Kale was cast aside because we could not see past his form to his spirit. This human saw what we could not. The matriarch's voice rose, commanding, Celera Ven, you have given one of our own the greatest gift, the chance to prove his honor. By the old laws, you have earned blood debt. The hall erupted in voices, but Cyrus silenced them with a roar. I name Celera Ven kinfriend to Clan Sirathorn. Her life is our life. Her enemies are our enemies. Should any raise claw against her, they raise claw against every warrior in this hall. One by one, the warriors struck their chests in salute. The promise of protection unto death. Celera stood frozen, overwhelmed. She'd expected judgment. Not this. Kale approached, still wearing his armor, and touched his forehead to her hand, the Crithian gesture of familial bond. You saw me, he whispered, when no one else would. Celera knelt to his level, her throat tight. I saw someone who wanted to try. That's all I ever needed to see. Later, alone in her workshop, Celera sat among her tools and half-finished projects. Through the window, she could see Kale training with the other cubs, his movements still different, but no longer dismissed. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the fastest or the most technologically advanced. But they had something else, an instinct to look at broken things and see potential. To adapt, improvise, and refuse to accept that anything was truly beyond repair. She'd given Kale armor. But perhaps what she'd really given him was the most human gift of all, the stubborn, defiant belief that everyone deserves a chance to prove they're more than what others see. And for that, an entire clan of apex predators had vowed to die for her. Celera smiled and returned to her work. She had